सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May we be protected together. May we be nourished together. May we all attain strength together. May our learning be illumined in our life. May there be no dislike between us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Welcome, dear friends, to this annual interfaith event, Universal Brotherhood Day. And of course, we are organizing it this year in very special situation. I don't want to talk about it. You all have heard enough. This is now a topic that is really burnt toast. So it is the idea is that this we started from 2002, so it is 19th Universal Brotherhood Day. Every year, the second Sunday evening is devoted to this in September. In September, every September second Sunday. And the idea is to commemorate Swami Vivekananda's participation in the first ever international conference of religion, was called Parliament of World Religions. And also this commemorates the inauguration of this Vedanta Society of Providence. It was started again on second Sunday of September in 1928. So, and this we try to make, that different religions, they have to come together in the sense that we should be helping each other and not fighting, as Swami Vivekananda mentioned in his Parliament of Religion address, that although we have different paths, different practices, we are all headed towards the same goal by different paths. So we should accept this variety and respect it. So to instill this spirit, every year we take up this program, and a theme that is commonly important in all different religions is taken up for discussion in this symposium. This year we have taken up the idea of meditation. In the Buddhist tradition, in Hindu tradition, meditation assumes a very important central practice. In the what is called Abrahamic religions, it is not stressed that much in the modern times. But if you look the historical records, you will see that there too this idea of meditation was very important. So we have today three very important, very erudite, accomplished speakers to discuss this theme. I will introduce them at proper time. But we begin with a song, an opening song, which is actually about Swami Vivekananda's traveling from India to deliver this great message of the divinity in all and harmony of all religions. So I request our singers to begin that. Taposh, Swapna, Abhijit, Rahul.
He was impelled by sea. Mother, mother, shall I go? Yes, my son, it shall be so. There is a thing that you must do, though others may not see. Their slander will not stop, my son, for God's grace goes with thee. He's held and small the luggage that he carried in his hand, but what he carried in his heart was more than science, more than art. This message that he must impart, would others understand? A foreign face with foreign dress, and from a foreign land, so large a mission to perform, yet like a child was he. Into a strange new country tossed, often hungry, often lost, improvident of time or cost. But it was meant to be. He reached the city, found his place, and waited nervously. What words came down to grace his lips on that September day? The hall was large, but larger still his voice, which rang out strong until the farthest corner it did fill, and no one quite could say what raised the listeners to their feet or made them cheer that way. That filled that all the cheers did not stop at its doors. Upon earth's eager ear they fell, ringing clear as some great bell, tolling death to that dark spell of private creeds and lords that sunder men and cloud the truth that each man's heart adores.
So, first speaker of today's symposium is Kwan Heng Sunim from the Providence Zen Center. Just a few words by way of his introduction. These days everything is available on internet from where I took this introduction as well, so you can also do the same. Kwan Heng Sunim went to Korea in 1997. He was ordained as a novice monk in April 1999, received Bhikkhu precepts, that is full monk's precepts, in 2003. After taking his precepts, he continued to live and practice in Korea until 2012. Since 2012, Kwan Heng has lived and practiced at Providence Zen Center as the head Dharma priest, Dharma teacher. I had a very short but personal interaction with him when I had gone there for an interfaith meeting. At that time we were discussing about meditation, and although he was not a part of the group, his insights when he was requested to tell what you would, and his insights about what is being in the moment. We glibly say that we should practice being in the moment, but he's really through a very illuminating explanation of what is actually being in the moment. And since then I was thinking that someday we will be able to get him here, and today God has brought this wonderful occasion for that. I request Venerable Kwan Heng Sunim to give his presentation. Thank you, Kwan.
Thank you for having me here.
Your voice will not reach. Shall I give you a chair on which you could sit like this?
No, I like this. I'm good like this.
Okay.
I'll speak loud enough. I'm used to sitting on the floor. What is Zen? So I practice Zen. So Zen is understanding yourself and helping others. It's very clear. So that's what the Buddha did when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree. He understood himself, and from that understanding, he helped the world. And so very interesting is that when the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree, he looked inside. He didn't look outside. He didn't ask for things. He didn't pray for anything. But he looked inside. He understood himself. He understood the universe. That was his enlightenment. Now, various Buddhist practices have different takes on that, but that's basically what it is. He understood himself. He understood the universe. And from there, he taught. Okay? And then the interesting thing about that when he taught, it wasn't about how great his experience was, but what he did is he showed people technique so they could experience reality themselves. So Buddhism is not about somebody out there. It's not really even about the Buddha, but it's about the experience. It's about your experience, okay? And so every human being in this world, every human being has a spiritual nature, okay? Every human. And every culture looks at that spiritual nature and somehow expresses it and explores it. So very important, just like what the Swami was saying, is that fighting over, to go to some place and say to somebody that my spiritual practice is better than your spiritual practice is not such a correct thing to do. And it's a good way to start fights, and that's the worst thing that we could do, especially when you understand that when you look inside, you understand that we're all connected. Okay, we're all connected. And So then what am I talking about when I say looking inside, and what is this connection, this spiritual self, this true self? Many different names for it. Universal self, God consciousness, all of these different names we have for it. But it's not special. It's not special. So that's what's important in that sense. So we, in our school, we call it before don't know mind. And this don't know mind is before thinking. This is your intuitive self, your true self. From this self, this spiritual self, you can you can look at why you was born, your purpose in life, and what's going to happen as you pass. Okay? So then you say, what is it? This I tell you that this spiritual self is before you think. That's it, right? But that's just a concept. How can I show you that directly? That's very easy. I just do that. Because when I do that, your mind don't say bang, it don't say pow, and it doesn't say bong. Did anybody's mind say that? Can I ask you, do you know why? Do you know why your mind didn't say that? Because why?
Association with the sound.
It's I can't hear you so much with the mask on, but it has you. When I do that, you hear that before you think. Isn't that before thinking? Am I going to get more simple than that? So this before thinking mind appears all the time. Zen Master said about 500 times in each person's life each day. 500 times. So I get up and I'm going to work, and well, I come home, and my mother, this is when I was young, I come home, my mother's in the kitchen, and she asked me to help her take the turkey out the fridge. She's a little lady, the freezer pot is up high. I just help my mother. I don't think about, should I help my mother? No, I just help my mother, yeah? Next day I go to work, and on my way to work, somebody with groceries fall down in front of me, yeah? I just help them up. There's no thinking, I just help them up. And so, but I don't look at that person and say, who did you vote for? I think I'm going to leave you there. No, we don't do that. Nobody does that, okay? That first impression, bending over to help, that's where we can all connect. That's where we all connect, except that we ignore it. So then I get to the train station pulls in, the doors open up, it's crowded, it's in the morning, people step off the train, I step back. But nothing in my head said step back, I just step back. If you go there and you stand behind on the platform and you watch the doors open, and you see like 4 or 5 different doors open, you see some people didn't step back. So what happens is they kind of get bumped into by the person coming off the train, and they kind of grumble a little. We've all seen that once in a while. That person that got bumped into, he wasn't exactly there at that time. His mind wasn't so clear. He's thinking about his family, about his job, so forth and so on, that kind of a thing. But it don't end there. You have 2 boxers, they're fighting, they're going at it toe to toe. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. Do you know what happens if one of them starts thinking? That's very clear, isn't it? So some years ago, there was this ice skater. Her name was Yuna Kim. I believe she won the gold in the Olympics in 2010. And so she did this very complicated form of skating on the ice, okay? And so when she did that and she came off the stage, she came off the ice, tears came down her face. Why? Because she knew she had done so well. She understood that she had done so well. But I guarantee you, when she was out there on that ice, she wasn't saying, man, boy, don't I look good today? I think I'm going to make that gold. If she'd have been like that, there's no way she would have won. Okay? But that's a very interesting thing. When she was on that ice, her inside and her outside became one. What does this mean, this inside and outside become one? I know we all hear that, but what is the meaning of that? The meaning of that was there was no I. There was no I, my, or me. There was no conscious thinking of I, my. It was only her and what she was doing, only her and her experience. That's why often when you see athletes, they tend to be more relaxed in their body. They have moments of where they're just not thinking, they're only just doing it. Just like the Nike commercial says, just do it. And I was around before that Nike commercial came out, and I know the spiritual leaders were already saying that. So that's a kind of interesting point. And so, but it don't end there either. You have Einstein. Einstein, who people would say, oh, Einstein, this problem and your solution to the problem is so different. How did you come up with that solution? And he would say, his mind took a leap, an intuitive leap. That's the same thing that I'm talking about. Everybody's had that experience in this room when your intuition just comes up and says, this is it. And you know it. Okay? It doesn't depend on facts and logic. It just comes up with the answer. Yeah? Now, that's not to say that I'm going to be in meditation. I'm going to get a revelation like Einstein did. He studied. He knew math. He understood math. But something in his consciousness digested that information. So when the Buddha got enlightenment, he said the reason why we suffer is because we're attached to I. What is your I? Your I is your likes, your dislikes, your opinions, your ideas, your attachment to that. And so Buddhism then is about becoming unattached. And so we do that by practicing. So I'm going to show you a little bit quickly about how we meditate. And yeah, I would just do that quickly. So we all have our meditations, but our style of when we do that is we sit with our legs folded. We look about 45 degrees in front of us. Our attention is on our belly, and we breathe in. Our stomach rises, and we breathe out. Stomach falls. Breathe in, stomach rises. Breathe out, stomach falls. Our back is straight, and our eyes are always open. We know why our eyes are open, right? Because we close our eyes. I sleep very good sitting up. So eyes are always open. Also, this is about seeing things as they are, not as you think they are, or as you want them to be, or how society tells you they should be, but as they are. Okay? So you're sitting there, eyes open, you see the gray floor in front of you, and back is straight. Breathe in, and say to yourself, clear mind, clear mind. When you breathe out, don't know. Breathe in, clear mind, and breathe out, don't know. And breathe in, clear mind, and breathe out, don't know. Now what's going to happen is that while you're doing this, your mind is going to wander, okay? Now my mind is wandering on the snacks that I had earlier today. Those snacks are pretty tasty, and so if I want, I could just get up from here and go right downstairs and have some of those snacks. Leave you guys sitting right here. Instead, what I do is I come back to what I'm doing, breathing in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. Breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. Of course, my mind jumps onto it again and thinks about how much of the snacks I'm going to get, and should I get a cup of tea with it also? And then when I notice my mind doing that, I come back to what I'm doing. Breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. Breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. Now, when you do this, it's important. The important thing that you do this in every kind of meditation, every kind of practice has to do this, is that whatever appears in your mind, good thoughts or bad thoughts, you don't hold on to it and you don't push it away. If you don't hold on to it and you don't push it away, whatever appears sooner or later will fall away and also have less of a hold on you. Does that make sense? It's very clear, very simple. Just breathing exercises is what the Buddha did when he got enlightenment. So, so then you might say, what's the big deal about snacks, not being attached to snacks? Well, you know, I come home, I've been working really hard, and I want to go to the kitchen and get my snacks and sit down and watch the 7 o'clock news. Is there anything wrong with that? Okay, so I go home and I come in the house to get my snacks, and before the news comes on and I see they're gone. I look at my little sister and look at the crumbs on her mouth. She ate my snacks, ruined my evening. Now, if I'm attached to those snacks, then I'm going to be angry, okay? But if I'm not attached to those snacks, I could take that moment to teach her how not to take what's not given. And I can do it without anger. All right? So a lot of mothers, a lot of parents, they take that anger and they push it inside. That's not healthy. That's not healthy. Better that you don't have that anger, okay? And you just see the situation. You're in the situation. So this practicing, when I'm say to myself, breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know, and whatever appears in my mind, I don't hold on to it and I don't push it away. What I'm doing is I'm coming back to this moment, okay? This moment is very important. So any time that you're outside or about your business and you want to have a moment, whether you're standing or sitting, just put your attention on your belly and breathe in. Physical, we're right there in the moment. So breathe in and breathe out. And you don't have to stand there and look obvious or anything like that. You'd be standing in a line to go to in the grocery store, and just put your attention on your belly, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. Breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. And then later on, what we do is we ask ourselves a question. That question is, what am I? So if you sincerely ask yourself, what am I, you eventually get to this point where you don't know. And that's how we can connect with this not knowing mind, just like that. Because when we ask ourselves, what am I, like I say, I'm Kwan Heng. That's my name. It's not even a name my mother gave me. I could say I'm a monk. That's what I do. I could say I'm happy or sad. That's how I feel. That's not what I am. So I just keep on going and down the list. But sooner or later, I'll hit a wall of not knowing. And so when you come in and you see people sitting around in the Dharma room where we're at, they're all returning to this before thinking mind, this not knowing mind. Okay? And then what happens is, as I ask myself, what am I, that not knowing mind gets longer and longer as I can keep it, okay? And then it changes. It changes to clear mind. The floor is gray, my clothes are brown. That's why you always want to keep your eyes open, okay? You always want to connect with the moment. So you always want to connect with the moment. And then after that, that's truth. So primary point, okay? After that, truth, okay? The floor is gray, my clothes are brown. And then one more step is necessary. That is, how can I use this clear mind to help others? Okay? How can I use this clear mind to help others? So that's our teaching pretty much, in a nutshell. But you understand, when you look around in the world, you see somebody walk into a school and start shooting. What do you think that person's attached to? Anybody know? How about anger? Attached to anger. Now, did that person wake up in the morning and say, gee, I think I'll go to school and shoot a couple people? It didn't happen that way. A person that does that, it takes years, literally years of dwelling on his anger, okay? So practicing is bringing yourself back to this moment. To the extent you can come back to this moment, to that extent, you let go of all of that. If you can let go of all of that, you don't have to worry about walking to the school and start shooting. But so the funniest thing is that when the Buddha sat down and he looked inside, he understood himself, he understood the universe, then you can do the same. When you sit there and you look inside, and each time as you're sitting there, you see that, this idea of candy, very tasty, appears, and then maybe some anger mind appears, and then something else appears. And what we're doing here when we're sitting here is we're looking at our minds so that we can understand ourselves. Not that person over there, not the person outside, not the person on the YouTube, but you understand yourself, okay, yourself. And so, once again, that when this understanding of yourself, you can understand then that, like I knew this school teacher, and what she would do when the kids kind of got devilish is she would bring one of them outside and make them run around until he got nice and tired, and then brought him back in. Why is that? Because when you're huffing and puffing, you can't really hold on to your emotions like that, So if everybody knows the Boston Marathon, right? So if somebody's in the Boston Marathon and is a friend of yours, and you wait towards the end, after Breakneck Hill, Heartbreak Hill. Heartbreak Hill, as you know, is that a lot of people don't make it over that hill. Okay, so that's kind of heartbreaking. So you see your friend is running up Heartbreak Hill, you're standing over there on the side. Then you run up beside him, ask him his friend's phone number. If he was inclined to tell you, do you think he'd tell you his friend's phone number? He can't think. That kind of person's not going to walk into a school and start shooting. Okay? So you can't take a person and sit them down and say, you gotta meditate. But you can teach people techniques and what's to bring themselves in a moment. It doesn't always have to be sitting. Sitting is just one technique. We also have bowing, we have chanting, and we have Kwan interviews. All of them support coming back to this moment. Okay, and everything that we do is about this moment, because the future actually don't exist, and the past is gone, that don't exist. And as soon as I say the moment, it's already gone. Right? So, yeah, that's, just wanted to impart on you the importance of bringing yourself back to this moment. And the most healthy mind that you can have when you're in distress of any sort is bringing yourself back to this moment. The things as they are. You'll sometimes see it on TV. They'll kind of make the person's kind of acting crazy and talking, and then somebody smacks them in the face, and it calms right down. That smack brings them right into this moment, brings them out of his head down into this moment. So that's just what that is. And you can do a lot of, there's a lot. But one of the things is okay, just going off a little bit different, is that when I sit down and I'm looking inside and I say, this what am I? And I looking at that, I also see that I won't be able to find anything that I could hang on my hat on and say that's who I am. Everything, so we're all mocked with this emptiness, okay? So sometimes people are a little bit depressed because of that. They say, well, what about all the fun I want to have? But there's actually a beautiful side to that. That beautiful side is that we're all connected. We're all connected. And this is what we're talking about. This is what the Swami is talking about when he talks about the different religions and getting together. The worst thing we could do is start fighting amongst ourselves, okay? So karma is this pain that you feel when you're coming outside of yourself. It's encouraging us to come back. You might not know that, but that karma is encouraging us to come back to ourselves, okay, to our true selves. And so when you look inside and you see that there's no I, my, then it's only natural. Then how can I help? How can I help? How can I help other people? How can I help the water? How can I help the trees? How can I help this world? And so the thing is, we're all connected. Might sound kind of funny, but how about this? You look at the forest in the Amazon, right? The forests in the Amazon are burning, and right here we're having problems with the quality of air. Every single person in the world right now has plastic in their system. Plastic that wasn't there 200 years ago. We tossed it, we put it over here, we throw it over there. But not only do human beings have it, but every dog, cat, bug, creature in this world also has plastic in their system. So if you think you're not connected, you should just sit back and look at yourself, and you'll find that connection. Okay? So we have wars and stuff going on all over the world. Do you think those wars are just going to stay over there? That's who we are. It can't just stay over there. There's no way. So, and then I guess, well, like with that, I'm fine, unless you want to have a question or something like that. Someone have a question? Okay, thank you.
What a practically helpful presentation of meditation. Meditation and our life, they are very closely connected. It is not that it is some half an hour practice that you do sitting, but it is something that translates into our day-to-day life and how we want to live it. So it is a great idea that our friend Venerable Kwan Heng Sunim presented, and actually if he began with saying that it is meditation is knowing yourself and helping others. That exactly is the motto of the Ramakrishna order that Swami Vivekananda presented. Yeah, this is different, not meditation. Yeah. It is Atmano mokshartham jagadhitaya cha, for the liberation of the self and for helping the world, for the good of the world. So this is, thank you very much, Kwan Heng Sunim. It was something that we all need to think about. His address was so rich that it is, we will have to keep on thinking and meditating on it. So many points that he presented, that how the different stages of mind, like breathe in, breathe out, and think about that, and come back to the moment, then the non-knowing mind, and then the clear mind, and very beautifully, sequentially, in a most organized way, he has presented, shows how organized his mind is. Our next speaker is Rabbi Barry Dollinger. He had spoken here before, I think it was 2016, and at that time he spoke on the mysticism. That was the topic for different religious faiths, and he was giving the idea about the Jewish mysticism. So, and his presentation was very much liked by everyone. So just a few words by way of introduction. He studied in Yeshivat and Native Arye in the old city of Jerusalem, right in the Holy Land. He also attended the Rabbi Isaac Elchanan Theological Seminary, affiliated with Yeshiva University, where he received Semisha in 2011. In September 2011, Rabbi Dollinger began serving as rabbi of the congregation Beth Shalom. He also serves as vice president of the board of rabbis of Greater Rhode Island, is a member of the Vad HaKashrut. Please correct the pronunciation, it is not easy for me. Of RI, and is a member of the Rabbinical Council of America and International Rabbinic Fellowship. We are very thankful to him for agreeing to come, especially when the holy days of Jewish people are just at hand. So still he made time to come here. I'm very thankful to him for that. Please, Rabbi.
It's okay if I speak from here. It's so great to see everyone. I have to say that every time I've invited the Swami to come and do something, he's generously agreed no matter what else is going on. And so it's really such an honor and a privilege to work together. Also, Kwan Heng Sunim, I very thoroughly enjoyed your presentation and learned a lot, so thank you. Maybe I'll just share one thing. Often in Jewish meditative practice, song plays a very important role to establish a frame or a mood. There's a type of song, nigun, which is wordless. There's an idea that our words are defined. Let's call them attachments, building on the last thing. They're very specific. But there's something truer both before the words are uttered, but also behind the words. Every word is in some way unsatisfactory. It's a good way to introduce a talk. And so they're developed a practice to sing songs without words as a way of seeking to kind of liberate or raise the voice up to a freer place, to a place of joy, not superficial joy, not ignoring difficulties, but something much deeper. So maybe I thought we'd start like that, and it's wordless. I know that singing, some people say maybe it's dangerous, other things, so if people want to sing quietly along, maybe that's welcome. Is that okay? Maybe don't belt it out, they say, but but it's a contemplative sort of song, so you can do that. And this is from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, and we'll get maybe to a teaching of his right after, but he's a Hasidic thinker. Hasidism was a sort of spiritual revival, a populist spiritual Jewish revival that incorporated elements of meditation, song, dance, and embodiment that had been practiced among elites, but not among common people classically in Jewish practice, and popularized them, and is experiencing its own revival at the current moment in different ways. So this one is about joy, but you'll get that. It goes like this. Ya da dum ba dum bum bum ba da dum bum bum ba da da dum bum ba dum bum ma ya da dum bum I da dum ya ma mum bum I da dum ba dum bum oh do 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 I da da dum bum. That's section A. So now I'll ask everyone to join along now that you know section A. There's just an A and a B if you're wondering where is this going. Again. Da da dum bum 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 ha da dum bum bum ba da da dum bum ba dum bum 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 hum ba da na na bum again. I da dum bum 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 I da dum bum 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 ba da dum ba dum bum 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 ba da da dum bum. That's A. Here's B. Ha-da-num, ma-na-num, ma-da-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Hi-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba-da-dum, bum, everyone. Hi-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum. Bum, ba-dum, ba, ya-na-nine, na-na-nine, da-na-nine, da-da. From the beginning, hi da dum ba dum bum bum bum, hi da dum bum bum ba da da dum ba, ha dum bum 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 bum, hi ya ba da dum bo, wa dum bum ba dum, ha da dum ba da dum bum 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 ba, wa dum bum bum bum. Hi-ya da da dum bo, hi da 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 gum bum ba ba da ba da 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 bum bum ba da dum bum ba da dum ba da dum ba da dum bum 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 ba da da yo ba da dum ba da dum bum bum ba wa da do. Speaking of sleeping, pick up on the theme. An important issue that emerges in Jewish meditative practice is about us and them, different religions, but also spiritual practice itself, even for a person, as potentially fraught in the following way. And I think sometimes we're familiar with people mocking or complaining about meditative practices in Western culture, maybe more conservative voices, as spiritual narcissism, as this form of self-care gone awry, where people are obsessed with taking care of themselves. And that becomes a way sometimes to demean or belittle spiritual practices, which are quite robust, and I think an unfair way of doing it. But there's a truth to the allegation a little bit, in the sense of the way it's been taken in a Western culture. I want to speak gently. It's not an indictment of meditative practice, God forbid. It's just something to watch out for. So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who wrote that song, said that repentance, this is our repentance season, return, if we're returning, every spiritual return, every homecoming could become sinful. In this, it could become about us. Look at me. I sat and meditated. I took care of myself. And served to feed an ego that ultimately causes us to become distanced from others. And that this is really the barometer, right, of whether the practice is legitimate. And so he wrote actually that every time someone repents, they need to do repentance for their repentance. Because just repentance itself is sinful. It feeds the ego. And so repent for your repentance, he told his followers. And so how does one do that, he said? He said through silence. Because silence, words feed the ego. Silence can shrink and help connect. And so in many Jewish meditative practices, there's this flow of trying to both build the self up in the image of God. That's an important metaphor for us. I know, maybe there are some differences in our religion too. Some are theistic and some are not. But there are such great similarities, even apart from theism, God and not God. And even still, there are great similarities, right? Because here, we're in the image of God, but if we're truly in the image of God, a force, let's say, empowering all things, then we let go of our sense of self and realize that we're all deeply connected and serve others kindly, not existing for ourselves. And so even in dissimilar theological systems, there are great similarities of practice that can emerge, I think. This is something I've found. So there's a Jewish joke. A lot of Jews like to complain that they don't believe in God in different ways to rabbis. That's something that happens regularly. And maybe it's not funny, but it's an old Jewish joke that someone comes to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, I don't believe in a God who does X, Y, and Z, who let the Holocaust happen, who causes the innocent to suffer, who allows pandemics and plagues, whatever it might be. And the rabbi responds, well, I don't believe in that God either. And of course, there's this notion that people have very simplistic notions of God. This is the story of Jewish meditation right now, is that for a long time, Jewish traditions had very deep contemplative traditions. I don't know that they needed to call them meditation as a practice as such. They were deep meditations, but it wasn't named in that way. It just was practice that occurred. And as many Jewish movements modernized in the 20th century, even the Orthodox tradition I come from, probably the most small c conservative, these traditions were shed as embarrassing, old world, magical, not modern, and they kind of disappeared largely from the Jewish tradition. And so I think I joked with you the last time I was here that there were more Jewish people attending the last Universal Brotherhood Day, when we could have hundreds of people in the building and have a big meal afterwards. It was a different time. Than in my synagogue, and that I should be coming here more. So there are books about it, right? The Jew and the Lotus explores a delegation of different Jewish thinkers, prominent Jewish thinkers, to meet with the Dalai Lama and what is involved there, and letters to a Buddhist Jew. There are many books about sort of Jews and Buddhism and jokes about American teachers of Buddhism often originating as Jews, as Sylvia Boorstein, others. But Jews have largely looked into other religions, to Buddhism, to Hinduism, to other places to find contemplative traditions. And there are some of us who just want to point out that we, not like us too, but sort of, that there's a slightly different flavor, I'll say, to the meditations. Ultimately, they all have, great similarities. The spiritual practice is practice. People are people. Our similarities are much greater than our differences. It remains true, and we're all connected in one greater whole. None of us are self-sufficient. That's also true. But people are unfamiliar with Jewish practices. Even Jewish meditation retreats often rely most heavily on practices from other traditions. So I thought I'd offer some introduction to different classical Jewish practices today for folks that might be a more unfamiliar frame to meditation. just like Jewish prayers have a lot of words, Jewish meditations tend to be complicated. It's this funny thing. There's an interesting dynamic where somehow in the contemplation, at some point, you kind of surrender and let go. And those are different often than other meditative traditions I've experienced. So I thought I'd share a sort of more simple, complicated meditation with you tonight, if that makes sense. Meaning it has a flavor of stuff that actually it can be a challenging. One of the challenges in the practice is to just some practices are really simple, and this is not a simple practice. You have to kind of like jump onto the train. It feels like jumping onto a moving train, and the train is often just one step ahead. So if that happens in your attempt at this meditation, you won't be alone. And yet, there's deep beauty in it if you can jump on the train, or even if you can't and you just try and fall, and the train continues to move on. We can always get up and try again in this metaphor. So maybe a show of hands. Are people familiar at all even with the four-letter name of God? The Tetragrammaton is a Jewish tradition, also Christian traditions. Are people familiar with that? 3 or 4. So mainly not, but some yes. There's a four-letter name of God that served as the focus for most Jewish meditations, and often those letters would come to represent complex systems of deeper other things, but I thought rather than talk about it, we'd experience it, because that's much deeper. The first letter of the 4, the Hebrew letter Yud, more or less equivalent to a Y, is just a point in Hebrew, and represents beyond thinking about a thing logically, it represents an idea that emerges, maybe a burst of creativity, how things come into being, the first moment of creation. The He, the second letter, represents the development of that idea. So, when you have an idea and you don't know if this was maybe we're building on the theme of the first talk, but sometimes you know the answer to a problem or a dilemma in life, but you don't yet know what it is. Like, and it's solved. I know what I'll say at the talk later at the Vedanta Society. That happened to me. I know what I'll say. But I didn't yet know what it is. And you are all the victims of that now. So I know what I'll say, but I don't yet know what it is. I have to pause for a moment and get it down on paper, try and vet that, let it incubate, bake, gestate, whatever metaphor you prefer. That's the second letter, is letting it rise, letting it bake, letting it develop a little bit into something that is closer to being actual. Vav, the third letter, represents action in balance. The Jewish mystical tradition is that our actions go awry when they're out of balance. When we're out of balance, we fall over. And that, for example, loving kindness and judgment, tough love and plain love, neither one alone works. And so how to actualize love is the primary question of the third letter, how to do that. And the answer is balance. It's through balance. We actualize love by being real with our friends if they are throwing plastic in the ocean and telling them no, or ourselves, but also doing it gently, because scolding just causes scars, right? And so doing it with love and concern, not to beat them or be right. This is an interesting thing in the political moment. I know there's an election coming, right? And so do we speak to each other to defeat people or out of love? That's a question anyone could ask. And then the final letter, He again, is deeper actualization. The first actualization was the actualization of a thought, working through the thought, and the final letter is making something real in the world. And so what this meditation teaches is that the God you don't believe in, I don't believe in either. It asks, well, how does a God wake up and decide to create? And the answer is that's not a good description of how things happen. Things emerge. Does that make sense? Things come into being. Things are created. Things gestate. Things develop, and eventually they actualize. And they do so in a way for individuals, but it's all collected. So the way we would note that it's all collective is to say that this 4-letter name of God, we don't pronounce it. It would be very helpful to me if I could pronounce it because it sounds like a breath. The word itself sounds like a breath. And it says in our Torah, God breathed life into people. God breathed. There's something about breath which is connected. I breathe air that trees or other plants created, and you may breathe the same air. We know that now. Masks are the deep reminder of connection. The air I breathe and the air you breathe, we could all either love each other or kill each other just through breathing. Whereas scientists like to say a butterfly flaps its wings in Providence and it affects weather patterns in China, right? That's everything has a manifestation. So in this meditation, we're going to chart the letters, but not as letters, because you don't know the letters, and that's fine. We'll chart the letters with the breath and the body. With the breath and the body. So how will it... Well, there's 4 letters, so there's 4 moments in this meditation. I said Jewish meditations are complex. Normal meditations have the in-breath and the out-breath. We have 4 in the breath, 4 points I'll ask you to focus on here. And this is a meditative technique, a very old Kabbalistic meditative technique, if people are curious, from a Spanish Kabbalist who lived in the 1200s named Joseph Chiquitilla, Little Joseph, I guess, Little Joe. And this was a very profound meditation that has enjoyed deep popularity then and now, and so it's a classic one. So the first aha moment, there's something there, creation is emerging out of a void, starts in the moment before a breath. After an exhale, I breathe, exhale. There's a moment there. I haven't breathed in again. It's a void. Yes, it's empty still. There's nothing there. That moment of emptiness in between breaths is the beginning. It's not the end, it's the beginning. So the void is the first part. And then, so in this breath, when you breathe, you'll note to yourself kind of gently touching, not holding, grasping, but touching the breath, sort of noticing void. You may need to name it, but if you can just notice it. And the meditation was to locate that actually in the head and to work. We're going to work down from the head to the feet. So void. And then on the in-breath, as we fill up, so that's the second piece, and that'll be in your arms. You'll kind of locate the breath there, locate your attention there. That's as it's filling up. So, and I'll work through it, right? Void, filling up. Now we're full. Just like there was a moment before the breath, there's a moment before the exhale, and we're poised. This is the third position, balanced and ready for action, ready for balanced action. And then the final exhale, right, of making something real, and that's the legs. That's the legs. So in this meditation, again, we'll kind of work through, before the breath, my attention is with my head. So the fourth part. My attention is with my head. Don't say all the words, just try and like it's a train, so I'll work you through it. So let me work you really into it. If people could sit maybe at the front of their seats. These seats, I think, could put people to sleep. And so you know where we're going. We'll do this maybe for 4 or 5 minutes to let you try and work on it. And notice any fear, notice any stumbles, notice any guilt, whatever, and just notice, don't hold it, and come back as much as you need. Before my breath, in my head, breathing in my shoulders and arms. Before my exhale, poised, erect, and ready. Exhale in the legs, and let the natural breath take over. So don't control it, just breathe. You can close your eyes, it's probably helpful. Gently, noticing the breath, its normal speed. Just charting the moments. working down from the head. Before the inhale, inhale. Before the exhale, exhale. Before the inhale, inhale. Before the exhale, exhale. Head, arms, torso, legs. Head, arms, torso, legs. Before the inhale, inhale. Before the exhale, exhale. Just sitting with the breath. Noticing the cycle of becoming, again, each moment with breath. Being recreated, continuously created. Continuously giving back, taking and giving, in and out, in and out. And we'll sit here with the breath. And if it's too much to chart all of these positions, just breathe. It's that simple. We'll sit here for a few minutes. And taking as much or as little time as you want, kind of staying here and staying with it, because the breath won't go away. We're not leaving the practice, but just gradually expanding awareness a little more and opening your eyes and coming back as you're ready. Just very brief. I just want to kind of conclude by framing this practice as one that is both a practice for us to feel holy, that's the point of it, to feel important, substantial, but also at the beginning it has emptiness, and at the end it has emptiness, and we give and we take in this. We take breath and we give breath, and it starts with nothing, and so it reminds us that the source of that sanctity is in connection, not in ego, and ultimately is beyond us, is there before us, after us. In that way, there's a Rabbi, Alan Marinus, I'll close with the phrase, it's a good phrase that I think summarizes what the aim of this practice is. Not more than my place, not less than my space. That's his phrase. Not more than my place, not less than my space. Right? So sort of not more than my place about everyone else, right? Our place is relatively small in the scheme of the universe. It's almost non-existent, but not more than my space, not less than my place. I guess place is the positive. That while we're here, there's a deep charge to interact in ways that are balanced, considerate, actualizing love. And I think that could be said of these different religions as well. And Swami Vivekananda's vision, sort of every religion has a crucial place in this sort of balanced spiritual world we live in, with different nuances and great similarities. And so it's just such a blessing to be here with all of you. I really appreciate your vulnerability in delving into probably a pretty foreign practice, maybe even an uncomfortable one for some people, hopefully a useful one. I've enjoyed learning with and from all of you, and if anyone has any questions, can of course ask. Yes?
Can you speak a little bit more about the first non-verbal or non-word piece?
Sure. Yes, that's correct. So that the song.
Yeah.
So that was from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. He's a very interesting Hasidic thinker who's been rediscovered. He was kind of an outcast in his time in the 1700s in Ukraine. 1700s in Ukraine, 1800s, early 1800s, late 1700s in Ukraine. He moved to Israel, but is buried in Uman, which is in the Ukraine. And he lived most of his life in Breslov, which is now, I think, on the Czech border with, I don't know, I once passed it on a train on a trip through Central Europe and got extremely excited. I had no idea I was passing his place, but had studied his work. He lived with deep depression. There's a biography about him that was written by Art Green called Tormented Master. And so he spent most of his life trying to develop singing and meditative practices surrounding what he viewed as realism, but we might call depression. And he called it the black hole, is often how he referred to it. Or deep darkness, it kind of sucks you in, and you can't get out and you become numb, and joy. And so that song was developed. He felt very much that often in moments of darkness, that what he called stupid things, that's what he called them, like songs, cookies, those are some of his examples, are what we need to kind of pull ourselves back together with people in connection. So that's how that song emerged. In this pandemic, I was feeling it. If you're interested, the biography, Tormented Master, is the classic. Anyone else? Thank you so much. Thank you all so much.
Many thanks, Rabbi, for this very interesting, novel idea of meditation that you presented. It is the Jewish spiritual or mystical stream is not very commonly known, but I am glad that it is getting revived. It is not actually very necessary that the Jewish people have to look into Buddhism or Hinduism. They can find the succor for the mystical and meditative experience within their own tradition as well. So, especially I was very much impressed by the two voids between the breath, inhaling and exhaling, beginning with void, ending with void. It was very, experiential to feel that while you do it. It is not just intellectually understanding, but actually feeling and experiencing. Many thanks. Every Universal Brotherhood Day for last many years, we had the privilege of having Ruach singers perform here. A large group would come and then provide many mystically and spiritually connecting songs. So this year, the conductor and the chief of that group, Diane Minasian, she sent me an email. I was really very happily surprised to see that email that she said that if you are having Universal Brotherhood Day and if you need our songs, we have them, online. It is so. Then when I asked, she gave me that piece, and we will be having it now played here. Those who are listening online, please remember we will post only the link and they can listen it from that link because otherwise there is a problem with YouTube that copyright and so forth. So please just listen to this piece of music. You can join singing as well. Ananda. He is currently the minister in charge at the Vedanta Society of New York, which is actually the first Vedanta society established by Swami Vivekananda way back in 1894. So, the oldest Vedanta society, and he does not need much introduction. So many thousands of people keep on listening to his lectures and are very familiar to his thought process. He is one of the best Vedanta teachers and that I have met. Very powerfully he presents his thoughts in the most organized manner, and he has also recently given a retreat in New York on meditation. So here also he has given long back a retreat on meditation. So it is, he will be now speaking. I request him to give his speech.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. My salutations to revered Maharaj. He is most kind to me, as always, overflowing with praise. Distinguished speakers here. We had a wonderful session on meditation from different traditions. Maharaj has asked me to speak about meditation from the Hindu tradition. And it's very diverse as Hinduism is. There's a wide range of meditative practices. So we'll go on this sweeping journey across several traditions, across several, not even centuries, millennia of tradition. Recently, as Maharaj said, we had this retreat on meditation at the Garrison Institute in upstate New York, where we talked about these different traditions, some of these traditions in more detail. So that's one of the reasons why I accepted Maharaj's invitation to speak here with such quickness, because I knew I wouldn't have to prepare anything separately for this. We had already done these in detail just a few weeks ago. But in the last session, briefly, I did something. Actually, there was this professor, Arindam Chakravarti, who is a professor of Indian philosophy. He was in Stony Brook until a few months ago. Now he's in Hawaii. He was originally from Hawaii, but he's back in Hawaii now. When he heard that we are doing this retreat on meditation and different traditions, he said it will be an interesting exercise at the end of it all to first differentiate, see these traditions as differently as possible, and then see what is common to all of them. So we did that exercise just for a short while in the very last session. One thing we found was that all of them, they all pertain to attention, to what you do with attention, what we attend to. We live in a world of distraction. We live in a world where we are not comfortable unless we are checking our mobile phones every few minutes. We're looking up our social media, and so on and so forth. We live in a world where we are hardly attending to what is being said, so distracted. Daniel Goleman, who is well known for his work on emotional intelligence, EQ, we know about that. But recently he has written a book on attention called Focus, because he heard so much from parents and teachers especially how children's attention spans are rapidly declining. Cannot sit still in the class, cannot attend to something more than for a few minutes. You need to be entertained all the time. So it's a crisis of attention. Part of the responsibility, of course, lies on this technology, information technology we are all immersed in. Now, I can't criticize the information technology because now we are so dependent on this pandemic. So it seems rather traitorous to criticize the internet at this point because we are heavily dependent on it. But it is true. It has created a crisis of attention. Meditation of all traditions, more or less, we have seen one common factor is it deals with attention. Meditation has certain benefits, certain material benefits. Manage stress, reduce anxiety, even improve immunity system, improve focus, attention, concentration, all of these. And they are certainly there. They have been documented. There have been studies which show the benefits of meditation. But if we go back to the traditions themselves, in Judaism and Buddhism and Hinduism, all the great world religions, the meditation traditions are not actually for boosting your immunity or managing stress so that you can be more productive. Yeah. So that was never the purpose. The purpose was much deeper, was the most profound, most serious purpose that human beings could have. Call it enlightenment, call it finding the purpose of life, of connecting with God. Whichever way we put it, enlightenment was the purpose. I remember this story about Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, who is associated with a very popular transcendental meditation movement. When he first came to the United States and he started teaching meditation, a simple meditation technique, and told people about all the benefits it would have. It would reduce aging, you'd be free of wrinkles, and you'd have a better immune system, and all of it is to some extent definitely true. But the story is when he went back to India on a short visit, his brother monk said, "What is it that you are teaching? That's not the purpose of meditation, at least not the way we learned it." He said something interesting. It's a story. Probably not true, but very interesting. It seems he said, "I give them what they want so that they will want what I want to give them." So a way of bringing you to the real purpose of meditation, which is enlightenment, God realization. Now, there are various approaches in Hinduism, but we'll focus on the deep, ultimate, final purpose of meditation. I'll take a quick journey through these traditions. The distraction, lack of attention, lack of focus was very well known to the ancients, and they regarded it as an evil. It's almost like a sin not to attend. I remember reading about this study. There's this psychologist, Jonathan Haidt. He talks about compassion, and this experiment which was performed in one of the Ivy League universities, in one of the divinity schools, I think, where a group of divinity students were given a text about compassion. I think it was the Good Samaritan text. You read about it, compassion, and then you are asked that you go to the hall across the quad, across the lawn. There's a hall, there will be an audience waiting for you. You have to give a short talk on compassion based on this parable. And so they all read about it, and then were asked to go one by one. And the real experiment was on that lawn, and on a bench, a man was sitting doubled over in agony. And this person going past to give a talk on compassion. Now the idea was to see how many of them notice this man. How many of them sympathize? Some did, some did not. And when you reach the other side in the building, they were told experiment is over, there's no speech, now you can go. So the real experiment was that. And they found, why did some people have compassion, why did some people not have compassion? Of course, there was a control group where they were given an entirely different parable, nothing to do with compassion. And it showed there was no correlation between what you read, what you study, what you think about, and whether you actually show compassion or not. Some people who did not read about compassion, some other subject, they showed compassion. A lot of people who read about compassion and walked on the Good Samaritan with a head with a powerful speech in their minds, those were the ones who did not stop. And they found what is the difference, then what is it related with? What was compassion related with? It was related with attention. Those who noticed, people are good. You notice somebody in trouble, you want to see, can I help? So those who noticed, those who paid attention, they were compassionate. The rest of the mirror neurons or whatever it is, they kicked in, but it requires attention. So a virtue, goodness, is also connected to attention. Anyway, so here are the traditions which we are going to talk about. The ancients regarded distraction as a spiritual problem, and concentration or focus was regarded as the means to enlightenment. Paying attention was regarded as the means to enlightenment. The ancient meditation master Patanjali, in the Yoga Sutras, he defines yoga, meditation, as paying attention. He says, Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. What is yoga? Yoga is the cessation of the restless wandering of the mind. The cessation of the restless movement of the mind is yoga in the sense of meditation. What happens when the mind becomes not restless? Swami Vivekananda compares the mind to a lake. Imagine a broad, vast lake where there are no waves. The water is still. And the water is clean. If the water is clean and the water is still, you can look through, says Swami Vivekananda, to the bottom of the lake. See, if there are waves, you can't see the bottom of the lake. If the water is muddy, you can't see the bottom of the lake. Usually the water is muddy and there are waves in most of our cases. It's wavy and it's full of mud. Clear water, limpid and clear water, and calm lake. You can see through to the bottom of the lake. It says, the meditation master Patanjali says, Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Our real nature as the witness consciousness is appreciated, is discerned when the mind is calm. When the mind is clear and calm, you realize that I am not this body. I am not a creature of flesh and blood. I am not even this mind. Mind includes thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, stories, the ego. Even the ego is the mind. I am not even the ego. And you realize I am something. There's an infinity that extends in front of you. That's God. But there's an infinity that is behind us, within us. That's also God. That's also that ultimate reality. So that one is discerned. Tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. The drashta means the seer, the knower, our real self, is understood in all its profound depth. And then what happens? If you don't do that, what happens? He says, the sutra is, vritti sarupya mitaratra. When the mind is restless, what happens is, we are identified with the mind. Anger. Do I say, I am this consciousness in which a wave of anger has arisen? No. I say, I am mad at you. That's what I say. I don't say I'm the witness of being mad at you. So we immediately get associated, identified with what's arising. Anger, I am angry. Desire, I want. Not that there is a wanting arising in awareness. I want. That's what happens. So vritti sarupya mitratra means when the mind is not calm, when the mind is not meditative and not settled, we get as identified with the movements of the mind. So what comes of all of this? Here you have to go in a little bit of philosophy, the whole Sankhya philosophy, which is allied with the yoga system, very ancient philosophy. It says, we are beings of spirit, not matter. And there is this material universe whose source is the root nature or prakriti. So the beings of spirit or consciousness he calls Purusha. Each one of us is separate consciousness, but we are beings of spirit. And separate from us is this material universe. Our problem is we don't know this separation. So this world is separate from us, we see. But this body is not us. We are not limited to this body, we do not see. And we think we are this. The birth of the body is my birth. The aging of the body is my aging. The coronavirus in the body is I am infected. And the death of the body is my death. Everything comes to an end at that point. That's identification with material nature. And this identification has to be dissolved. This knowledge which dissolves the identification with material nature, this comes when the mind is absolutely calm. He calls it samadhi. When samadhi is attained, you see the distinction between material nature and yourself, that nothing that is material is you, and you are nothing material. You are spirit, beings of spirit. I like that saying very much, which says, we think we are human beings in search of spiritual experience. The truth is, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Very beautiful. I don't know where it comes from, but this is exactly what Patanjali wanted to say. So this is the goal, to see that we are spiritual, infinite, not limited by material nature, though we interact with matter, with this material world. And this material world is real and apart from us. This is the philosophy behind it. How do you do it? There is this whole procedure. First of all, there is this ethical grounding. One must first clean up one's life. There are ethical disciplines, truth, and sense control, and non-violence, and non-taking of what does not belong to us, non-taking of even what is not essential for us. It sounds very monastic. It was a very ascetic kind of discipline. So once the yama and niyama, the ethical disciplines, we are well grounded in that, next, be still. First, physical stillness. So asana. Asana is very popular here, and that's what goes in the name of yoga. But that's just the third step in yoga. And there the asana means, in Patanjali Yoga, just the posture which is most suitable for meditation. There are a variety of these postures, whatever suits you, where you can sit still, don't move. One meditation teacher in the north of India, so like a drill instructor, he would bark at the students for sitting for meditation. I'll tell you in Hindi and then translate. He would bark. Hilo mat, bolo mat, socho mat. Hilo mat means don't move. And you can see everybody freezing. Bolo mat, don't speak. Shh. And then socho mat, don't think. Easier said than done. Don't think. So don't move, don't speak, don't think. But there's a lot of truth in that. Physical stillness is absolutely important. So an asana where you can sit, like the Reverend was sitting there, you can sit without moving. And then pranayama, the control of the breath. The breath has a deep connection with the mind. Deep, regular, rhythmic breathing can calm down the mind directly. And then pratyahara, withdrawal from too much engagement with the world. You can close your eyes, or as the Reverend said, you can keep your eyes open and focus at something. Not looking around, but focused at something, generally, not with a strain, calmly, looking at the ground, the grey ground in front of you. So that the mind does not move with the eyes here and there. You keep the eyes closed, good, but as he said, problem is sleep. Our mind is associated closing the eyes with sleep. In the moment we close the eyes, the mind understands, okay, I can go to sleep now. Then actual meditation starts. It's the training of attention. It has 3 steps, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Dharana can be translated as focus, dhyana as meditation. So meditation really happens in the 7th step. And finally, samadhi, which is total absorption, the deepest state of meditation where the mind is absolutely calm and that intuitive knowledge arises that we are spirit. How do they do this thing? One way, which is done in Patanjali, is take up one object of meditation. You can't calm down the mind suddenly. No use barking, don't think. You'll think all the more. You'll probably be scared. So the way they do it is, you take up one thought, so that when the mind wanders, you bring it back to that thought. It could be a mantra, it could be looking at a symbol, something. Absorb the mind in one particular vritti or movement or wave, so that when other things come, and they will come, you have to again move it back to the center of attention, to what you are focusing on. You may focus on Om or something like that. And hopefully that knowledge will arise. So this is a Sankhya Yoga kind of approach, a very ancient approach, a little dry and difficult. So to hold on to that for months and years and decades together, it's a tall order. And in comes the bhakta, the devotee, who says, it's all dry. Let's make it full of joy and life and love. Instead of the dry kind of think of one thought, don't think of other things. Think of God. Think of the Lord. In Hinduism, in many forms. So think of the glory of Shiva in the Kailasha mountain, the form, white form with the moon on his forehead, with the Ganges flowing out of his top knot, and sitting in deep, profound meditation, glowing in your heart. Imagine a glowing red lotus in the middle of your chest. And then the form of your beloved, the Lord, whichever form your tradition you worship. It could be Vishnu, Meghavarnam, Shubhangam, cloud-colored in 4 arms and lying on this Sheshanaga, the 1,000-headed serpent, on the cosmic seas with Lakshmi at his side. A glorious, very detailed. It's not don't think, rather think. Mind becomes much more busy. So instead of hilo mat, don't move, bolo mat, don't think, socho mat, bolo mat, don't speak, socho mat, don't think, instead of doing that, think of the glorious form of the Lord, not of other things. And it's such a glorious exercise of imagination that your mind is absorbed. There's nothing left over to think of other things. And speak the name of the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Repeat as you meditate on the glorious form of the deity. Repeat mentally the mantra. It might be something like Om Namah Shivaya. So you are speaking actually. From no speaking to speaking. No thinking to thinking. Even no movement to movement. You can get up and dance also. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, the ISKCON people do that. No harm. See how far you have come. Don't move, don't speak, don't think. You can move and speak and think, but it has to be all around, centered around your beloved Lord. Your Krishna or Rama or Vishnu or Shiva or the Divine Mother. Durga Puja is coming. So now that is a devotional kind of meditation. There are elements of bhakti traditions in it, elements of tantric traditions in it also. Language is understood to be a cause of bondage, the way we employ language. And the same language can be a cause of freedom from bondage also. That is the entire mantra shastra. Okay. Now along comes the non-dualist, the Advaitin. All this is very fine. But have you noticed one thing? That I am apart from entire material nature. I am not the body, the mind. I am not, of course, the external universe. Or to me appears the divine form of Shiva or Kali or Durga or Vishnu. But have you noticed? All of this requires you. It is to you that appears the restless mind. It is to you that appears the calm and meditative mind. Who experiences the calm and meditative? What experiences the calm and meditative mind? Who experiences the glorious vision of Shiva? Who experiences who or what experiences the glorious vision of Kali? In Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna has the vision of his Divine Mother. But it required that consciousness which called itself Ramakrishna to have the vision of that. Now the question is, what is the relationship between you, that consciousness, which has these experiences, worldly experience, spiritual experience, calm mind, restless mind, devout mind, meditative mind, whatever it is, what is the relationship between you, the knower, and that which you experience? Are they two separate things? Yoga, Patanjali, the yoga master, said, yes, it's separate. Or you, the devotee who worships God and meditates on God, and you have a vision of God, is this God separate from you? Basically a philosophical question. What is the relationship between consciousness and its object? So here the non-dualist says, I'll tell you a stunning secret. The two are not different. You, the experiencer, and your experience. Whatever that experience is, the world or God, chaos or silence, a restless mind or peaceful mind. All of that is appearing in you, the awareness, and disappearing in you, the awareness, and is not different from you, the awareness. What is the relationship between consciousness and its object? The materialist says consciousness is born from matter. Matter is primary and consciousness is born from that. And that has a whole lot of problems. Now we are talking about the hard problem of consciousness and so on and so forth. The theist, the one who believes that God is the creator of the universe, says that matter is born of consciousness. The material universe has been produced, created by God. Whichever tradition of theism you believe in. The Sankhya or the Yoga says neither causes the other. Both are fundamental realities and they are parallel existences in this universe and they interact. You are consciousness and you interact with the material universe. The moment you know that, you are free. But the non-dualist says that awareness, consciousness is the reality in which matter appears. You can say matter is the dream of consciousness. Just like in our dreams. When we experience our dreams, we go to a particular place, a park, a beautiful park. There's the sky and the trees and the lake and people are walking their dogs all around. And I am there too. I can see myself. I'm there. I'm walking around and talking. But the moment I wake up, I realize one thing. We say, oh, it was a dream. And what about the people in the dream? What about the place and the sky and the park and all of that, which seemed to be material nature outside me, which I was experiencing? I realized immediately, at once, it was all dreamt up by my mind. It was dreamt up by my mind. In this modern age of artificial reality or virtual reality, we can understand that our mind is the most powerful virtual reality generator that there is. So in the same way, it's not subjective idealism for those who are trained in philosophy. What non-dualism or Vedanta is saying, not that the mind, individual mind is thinking about this world, that's solipsism. That's like you're saying I alone exist. Not like that. Both the world and the mind, both the subject and the object are appearing in one awareness. And that one awareness, we are all one in that awareness. These differences are not there. It's not that you are different and I am different, like the Patanjali yogi will say. No, there is only one consciousness, one awareness in which appears this world. So what? How does it relate to meditation? I'll make that point and end. What the non-dualist does to meditation is very interesting. Once you begin to appreciate that everything appears and disappears in consciousness, and I am that consciousness. I don't appear and disappear. The ego itself might appear or disappear, but my real nature is that consciousness. Then what happens to meditation? The non-dualist says, whatever you experience is a pointer back to your real nature as consciousness. So, for example, when I look at that light, what do I see? I see light. But I also now notice that I am experiencing light. The light is appearing to a greater light, which is I, the consciousness. This consciousness is called Jyotira Jyoti, the light of lights. Notice, this light lights up the entire hall. But this light is of no use unless you have your eyes open. And the eyes are of no use unless you're paying attention with your mind. And the mind is of no use unless there is consciousness behind it to light up the activities of the mind. The activity of the mind, the restlessness of the mind, the peaceful nature of the mind, all are lit up by consciousness and all are pointers back to consciousness. So what the non-dualist does with meditation is, anything that happens in the mind, in the body, externally in the world, all are pointing back to you the fact. If you have experienced it, what does it tell you? You are consciousness. Just like, first we go from seeing lamp, microphone, table, Swami. Then I'm told that all of these are being experienced by the same eyes. So when I see lamp, but my eyes are seeing the lamp. Microphone, but my eyes are seeing the microphone, the table, Swami. Similarly, going from experience of the world to every experience now points back to me, to the consciousness which is experiencing it. So a Vedantic, non-dualist meditation would be, think, let the mind think. Do this only. Whatever the mind thinks, notice that it is appearing to you, the consciousness. It is an appearance in you, the awareness. It shines in you, the awareness, and disappears back into you, the awareness. You are the illuminer of thoughts. You are the illuminer of the absence of thoughts. Not as a practice. You're choicelessly that. We are that already. And we just need to attend to the attention is still there. We still need to attend to that. How is this different from other forms of meditation? Well, here you don't necessarily need to sit. Here I don't necessarily need to close my eyes. With my eyes closed, with my eyes open, it's the same consciousness which illumines everything. Here I need not withdraw. You can withdraw if you want. but you can also be engaged. Every time before we go for a meal, our tradition is that we chant a verse from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which says, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi Brahmagno Brahmanautam Brahmevatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. I'm always afraid to chant it. People will start feeling hungry. Like Pavlovian dogs trained to, now it's time to eat. It talks about, imagine the Vedic times. The rituals at that time were the fire rituals of the Vedas. So a fire would be lit, and that would be a sacred fire. And the priests trained in the Vedas would offer oblations into the fire with the help of a wooden ladle. And they would chant mantras from the Vedas. So that was the ritual, the kind of... Nowadays we have replaced it in Hinduism. It has sort of evolved into the puja which we do. This mantra, this verse refers to that. It says, the ladle, arpana, the ladle is not a ladle. It is consciousness alone. The fire into which you offer oblations is consciousness alone. And the oblation which you are offering is consciousness. The priest who is offering those oblations is consciousness alone. The act of offering, every action, is that consciousness alone. And what is that consciousness? It's you. Tattvamasi, that thou art. This entire universe is like a play in you, not in this body, not the you, the body, not the you, the mind also. The consciousness, I'm using the word consciousness for want of a better word. The Vedantic word is Brahman, which literally means the vast. It has no specific meaning. It just means the vast without limit, Brahman. So that Brahman, you are that Brahman, and the one who sees Brahman, who learns to see Brahman in this way, in all activity. Notice, it does not say, don't move, don't speak, don't think. No, we have come a very far distance from that. In all activity, walking, talking, thinking, working, driving, and meditating also. In all activity, one who sees Brahman, that one attains to Brahman. That means that one attains liberation, the goal of enlightenment, liberation, freedom, oneness with infinity, which is the purpose of meditation. We have taken a sweeping look at different meditation techniques, from Patanjali Yoga to Bhakti and Tantric traditions, which is very close to our own tradition, what we do, and the non-dualist Advaitic meditation. So I think I've also run out of time. I should stop here. If there is any comment or question? Yes.
Wonderful talk, as usually. The question is that, I think it's an obvious question there, is that where is the role of God in there? Because it's a separation between, at least what I heard is that you are the consciousness, I am the consciousness, and everything is a consciousness. The act of, as you said, the ladle is consciousness.
Yes, yes.
The oblation is consciousness. So I am the consciousness. So if I am the consciousness, so I am the God.
Yes.
Is that correct?
But be careful when you say I am God.
What?
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing we are usually warned against. When I say I am God, and literally that's the translation of the Mahavakya from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. But at that point, I am no longer this I. There's no sign of that limited human individual. As long as that is there, it's sacrilege to say I'm God. And God is also no longer God. So it's Meister Eckhart, the great German theologian, who's very close to non-dual Vedanta, who says that that ultimate reality is the ground of my soul and the ground of God, which is very beautifully put. I mean, it's a very Advaitic thing. As long as I think, the question is, where is God? As long as I think, and this for a very long time, that I think that I am this person, then that ultimate reality, Brahman, we are talking about is actually the God of religion. Only when I transcend my bodily, mental limitations. Transcend means it's already there. We are already transcendent, but when I recognize that, then the separation of God is also gone. And it becomes one reality. Means it is one reality, but we recognize that one reality. It's very useful and very wise not to make that jump. The problem is when I'm very deeply rooted in this bodily consciousness and then I say, I am God. No. In no way. Shankaracharya says, the wave belongs to the ocean. The ocean never belongs to the wave. But, now I'm extending Shankaracharya. The wave belongs to the ocean never belongs to the wave. But notice, both wave and ocean are water. In collectivity, it is the ocean. In individuality, it is the wave. Swami Turiyananda says, brother disciple of Swami Vivekananda, he said, Vivekananda could say, I am Brahman. It does not come easily to us. So I always say, thou my Lord.
So it is enlightenment, basically.
Yes, yes. In whichever way you go, you are touching that same reality. If you go in a completely theistic way, I am God, and I maintain that separation, you're still touching the same reality. Very good. Thank you so much. Take a look.
Many, many thanks, dear Sarva Priyananda, for this beautiful exposition. All of these teachers, they were pointing out at the underlying oneness. And there is a beautiful way of salutations by Hindus. They don't say hello or hi, they say namaste. So there is a beautiful song that we chant at the end of this Universal Brotherhood every year. So we will be presenting this song on Namaste. Please, all the singers and that our harmonium player Taposh, where is he? Hey, okay, yeah. You can all join in singing.
Namaste, Namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India, what they say, what's so true, I salute the divine in you. You may be from Africa, you may be from Asia, you may be from Australia, but there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, Namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. You may be from America, you may be from Europe, you may be from the islands, but there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, Namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. You may be a Christian, you may be Islamic, you may be Hebraic, but there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, Namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. If you're a Native American, Buddhist or a Taoist, or if you are a Hindu, there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, Namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. Namaste, Namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. I salute the divine in you. I salute the divine in you.
today is Universal Brotherhood Day program, and my heartfelt thanks to all the presenters today. They made us realize that how the meditative practices of different streams, different religions, they actually all point to realizing the truth, realizing the self, the underlying reality that is not apparent to the senses, that therefore has to be proved through meditation. So it was a very illuminating evening, and this also, I was telling you in the beginning that this marks the celebration of Swami Vivekananda's speech at the Parliament of Religions in September 1893. It is also the beginning of the Vedanta Society in September 1928, and also every year after this summer break we begin our programs from this day. So from today the Vedanta Society is open with the new conditions according to the situation. In Bengali they say avastha bujhe vyavastha kora. Means according to the situation you have to adjust yourself, but keeping the ideal intact. So we have opened for a limited attendance, and everybody can of course join, are invited to join online from our YouTube channel, and the programs include the morning and evening meditations and prayers. Please notice from in our newsletter the timings. The Tuesday and Friday classes and the Sunday service. That is all beginning from today. So please feel free to join in any way you like. And now also I must thank here that it was this program always concluded with a sumptuous feast that was always provided by the volunteers of India Museum. So this year also they have graced, they have brought the food, but because of the again situation doesn't permit us to congregate and eat food together, that would be too much. So therefore there would be the lunch boxes. Those who have been staying here, it's different for them, but those who have come for this program from outside, I request them that you please take the lunch box with you. Not lunch, it is dinner box with you. Of course you can fill dinner in the lunch box as well. So it is because those boxes were bought as lunch boxes, so that is how the word is coming. So it is, please take it with you. And since, as Sarvapriyananji was telling, that that verse, the grace is to be chanted before taking food, so let us chant the grace right here, and then we will have the conclusion with the prayers to the Divine Mother. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahmakarma samadhina. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord, please accept our offerings. Bless us, make us pure and all-loving. May we not accuse, demand or complain, but love, respect and cooperate with all. May we not find faults with others, but try to find our own faults. May we not treat others as strangers, but learn to make all our own. Make we feel the whole world to be our own. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.
Auspicious and blessed, graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing glory. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. Nature's real basis, nature's essence. O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All our suffering removed by death. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sarada Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddha Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jesus Christ Ki Jai.
Thank you all who came to attend this program in person as well as those who joined online. Now as you go out, please remember, do not try to speak to the presenters, the speakers of today. Here to maintain social distancing, please don't try to do that. So also go out the row by row. So please, the back row, they will go out first, then the next. Of course, that doesn't include those who are volunteers or those who have been staying here. So please, from the back row, please begin. Yeah. Then the next row will follow, then the next row, then the last row. So the speakers will have to wait a little longer.